Three straight losses to Michigan sting, but this is the year Ohio State flips the script.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to another feel-good Friday around here at Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, I'll unveil my score prediction for tomorrow's game, discuss the importance of the Buckeyes winning the intangibles tomorrow afternoon. But before we get to any of that, it's time for war. And Ohio State has an opportunity tomorrow to do something that they have not done since 2019. And I would 100% believe they're going to beat the Wolverines tomorrow. That is correct. Michigan comes into the shoe and walks up with the L. The Buckeyes leave the shoe with a W, and they walk into Lucas Oil Stadium a week from tomorrow, because I believe the Buckeyes on offense and on defense, they're playing so well that no matter what Michigan tries to throw at them, the Buckeyes have an answer. They have an answer for Michigan's front, the defense in the front seven. They have an answer for potentially Davis Warren trying to get loose through the air. They have an answer for whatever Michigan wants to throw at them. And that's the reason why I believe Ohio State is going to win tomorrow. Now, maybe you think the same thing. And if you're an Ohio State fan, I hope you're going into this game believing the team is going to win, but also realizing one thing as well. Records don't matter. Don't look at the point spreads. Don't do none of that stuff. None of that stuff matters tomorrow. Yeah, that losing streak that Ohio State has to that team, the players are feeling that. Ryan Day's feeling that. Everybody is feeling the repercussions of what's happened the past three times these teams have met. There's even some newcomers here that are sitting here saying, I know I ain't been here in the previous meetings between the Buckeyes and the Wolverines, but I feel the pain of the guy that's my running mate. I feel the pain of the guy that has been here for a year that just learned about the rivalry and the importance of it, but he was here a year ago when Michigan won, and he says, man, I never want to feel that feeling again. Ryan Day talking about how important this is and what the loss means to him and his family and how it's one of the worst things that's ever happened to him. Think about that severity of it. And when you have that built-in frustration, built-in emotion, whatever you want to call it, that it describes how fed up you are with the situation, something has to change. In the offseason, the Buckeyes stepped into the portal, not trying to get 30 or 25 guys, no. They went to the portal to get quality players. A Quinshawn Judkins, a Will Howard, a Caleb Downs, a Julian Sayin, a Will Kashmir. They went to the portal to get guys that even, honestly, had to go in the portal to get a guy that was on the team last year, Bryson Rogers. Now, I'm not sure Bryson Rogers' role that he's going to play in this game. However, sometimes you got to go in there to keep your own guys on the team. That's what happened. That's the gist of it. And Ohio State right now, they built this team for this moment. Treveyon Henderson, Emeka Ibuka, Tyleik Williams, Tuimoloau and Sawyer, and numerous Ohio State players could have gone off to the NFL, could have gone off and been a pro, didn't have to stay in school to go to class anymore. They could have said, we lost to them. We know we got an opportunity in the next year to potentially win that game, but no, we're going to go and start our pro careers. They didn't do that. They stayed in school. They said, we got something else to do. We don't want to leave the Ohio State program without a pair of gold pants, without a win against Michigan. So they came back for this game. They came back for this moment. And if you think about guys tomorrow that might show up and show out in a big way, look for those guys that decided to come back, to stay in school, and with this game in mind. With this game at the forefront of their mind, because this is what has to happen. You have to win. Think about it if you're Emeka Ibuka, who some say he had goosebumps on his arm earlier this week talking about the game and thinking about it. Treveyon Henderson, who's playing the best ball of his Buckeye career. Don't look at the numbers because that don't really tell you how he's playing. Watch the film. Look at how he's playing. He has never played ball this well at Ohio State, and I think that continues tomorrow. For some of the other players, Jack Sawyer, an Ohio kid, can't stand the team up north. But what does he want to do tomorrow? Leave his mark and his stamp in this rivalry, and it's a positive stamp, not a negative stamp. You don't want a bunch of red marks. L. No, you want a W, man. You want to walk out of this thing tomorrow like you believe and like you left everything out on the field. And if you do that, you're going to win. Now, it does benefit Ohio State. I'm not going to shy away from the reality that Michigan's not good. They're not a good football team this year. They just got bowl eligible a week ago. Yes, they blew up the scoreboard in a way they hadn't done all year. That is true, but Ohio State has answers. Ohio State has answers. Even if some things don't go Ohio State's way, I believe there are answers for Ohio State. I can't dive into all those yet. Some of those are going to come up later in the show. They got answers, man. They got answers for Michigan's run game. They're going to work on an answer to stop Michigan's defensive front. They got an answer. They got Jeremiah Smith. And I don't believe Will Johnson's playing tomorrow. So if you got number 4 and their number 1 corner isn't on the field, isn't that kind of the opening for the guys named Tate, named Ennis, Abuka, and Smith to just go off? Yes. But if they're going off, it's also going to be because Judkins and Henderson are winning the battle in the trenches. Because I do believe, just like any other game in this rivalry, especially during the past 20, 25 years, the winner of this game is going to win the battle in the trenches, and I firmly believe Ohio State can do that. It's also respecting how good Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards are. They're not trash players. Donovan Edwards has done good things in this rivalry. Well, has done some decent things in the rivalry before. He understands what's at stake. I'm not sitting here saying that Michigan has a trash offensive line or a trash running backs. No, they're good backs. However, let's keep this in context. I think as a unit, actually I know, Henderson and Judkins are better than Mullings and Edwards as when you're comparing the two duos. Now, Ohio State's offensive line, this version of it, it's only played one game together, but that one game was better than I think advertised. And so when I think about Michigan's defensive front, I also think about Carson Hinzman. He was there a year ago. He saw that ball get intercepted on the final offensive play that Ohio State had a year ago. He felt that hurt. He felt that pain. He felt the emotion that ran through his body when that ball was caught and you knew it was game over. He felt that. And he's another one. Talking about how the center is the quarterback of the offensive line. He is not trying to end another game against Michigan with that feeling ever again in his life, which goes to why I do think now with the offensive line being different, and Seth McLaughlin playing great ball this year with him not being out there on the field, that doesn't mean that I don't have a belief in Carson Hinzman to play a phenomenal game tomorrow and really do what is needed to contain as much as you can those big hog mollies up front in Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Why? I think he's made for this. Hinzman got a lot of bad attention last December. Got a lot of bad attention throughout the offseason. People wondering, is he in the doghouse or is he not? He's out of the doghouse. He's quickly proven that he needs to be on the field. And I think this is a time for him to really show up and show out and show everybody. We hear about y'all saying these guys are going to be a challenge for us. Here's our answer. Ohio State has answers for anything that Michigan's going to throw at them, which is why I believe that the Buckeyes will beat the Wolverines for the first time since 2019 tomorrow. Now, I know they have answers, and some of those answers are going to come in different areas of the game, but there's one key area of the game that Ohio State must absolutely win. I'll tell you that next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks has some amazing features as it's kind of filtering out through the fluff to help you find the tickets that you want. While doing so, you'll be able to get the all-in pricing. You'll be able to see a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. They got the lowest price guarantee, and they also have coverage on your ticket that allows your ticket to be covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. All of it is geared to help you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you all for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. Ohio State, I believe, is going to win tomorrow for the first time since 2019 against those pesky Michigan Wolverines. We can't stand them. I know you can't stand them. That's the one team in the entire country, FBS, FCS, it doesn't matter, that I can't stand. And I do think Ohio State has answers tomorrow. And it's a big one of those reasons is because I believe Ohio State is going to win the intangibles. And winning the intangibles is key. Now, you can't always control the way the ball bounces. As far as, man, it's a wobbly shaped ball. A week ago, Cody Simon should have had a forced fumble. The ball bounced to Indiana. Sometimes that stuff happens. However, there are intangibles. There are moments that you can win, and you must do it. Now, tomorrow, if that ball was bouncing in an odd way, you better get 3 or 4 or 5 Buckeyes around there as quick as possible to pounce on that ball. Those are things that need to happen. But if Ohio State wants to win this game tomorrow, and I believe they do, I believe they have the answers. And part of it is when it comes to the intangible special teams, when it comes to the intangible short yardage situations, when it comes to staying, not getting off schedule, or if you get off schedule, quickly getting back on schedule. Ohio State has guys to do that. Let's think about what happened a week ago. There was I forget how they got back to 3rd and 35. That part escapes me, but there was a moment, 3rd and 35. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you're going to punt. All of a sudden, Will Howard throws a pass, a 25-yard completion to Carnell Tate on 3rd and 35. When I'm thinking, y'all just going to settle, run a draw, run something quick, get this thing. No. In that moment, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Will Howard, they're all on the same page. We can do this. We got what it takes to get this first down completed. On 4th and 10, the very next play, I'm sitting here thinking, and I probably said it out loud, they're going to settle for a long field goal. They're not going to try and throw and get this and get this completion. No, they're not. I was wrong. I was mistaken. And in the moment when I'm thinking y'all on the right hash, y'all are staying on the sideline, you're not giving yourself much real estate to operate in. Tate got the ball on 3rd and 35. Tate got the ball on 4th and 10. First down. And so those moments, Ohio State must win. Because Michigan's going to try and do the same thing. Michigan's going to do some things tomorrow that they have not done all year. You might see some looks and some formations they haven't shown in 4 or 5 years. Maybe Sharon Moore might pull something up from when he was playing back at Oklahoma. Why? Because sometimes in these kind of games, you got to pull stuff out you haven't used in a very long time, and you save it for this. Now, I know Jim Knowles has some stuff saved for this weekend, and I know Chip Kelly has some stuff saved for this weekend as well. But also the players, they got to just tap into a well of energy and adrenaline they haven't used ever in their lives and lay it all out there. Just like Ohio State a week ago on that 3rd and 35, on that 4th and 10, found a way to win that thing. Same thing. Special teams. Buckeyes must win. And this is not me boldly saying that Ohio State is going to have another punt return for a touchdown tomorrow. I'm not saying that. But if you're able to, if it's a fair catch, it's a fair catch. Don't put yourself in, no. This isn't like, hey, if I'm back there on punt return, I got to catch the ball and try to get positive yardage. No, sometimes the right play is a safe play and just make a fair catch. Sometimes you kind of got to do things that may seem a little unconventional, but it's going to help you win the intangibles of the game, the little moments. Now, Ohio State's red zone offense and red zone defense, those, forget the numbers. Just win those areas. Why am I saying forget the numbers? Because some people are going to try to analytically look at this and say, well, here's Ohio State, and they're looking at this, and they here's their percentage in this moment in the third quarter, but here in the first quarter, their numbers, nobody care about that tomorrow. Nobody cares. Just go out there and win. Just go out there and win. The red zone situation, Ohio State has to win. Turnover margin, Ohio State has to win. You have to win those moments. And if things start to go crazy, you can't lose your poise. You gotta stay locked in for 4 quarters, all game long. I guarantee there's going to be a moment tomorrow where Michigan starts to get a little chippy. What was it, 2021? It was 2021 because it was my first time covering the game here for the Locked On Podcast Network. 2020, there was no game. And so 2021, I remember this very, very, very well. Michigan was the more physical team that day. Michigan was the better team that day. And in that moment, I remember I seen this video come up recently, kind of got under my skin. Cam Brown is being attacked by 2 or 3 Michigan players, and he's going back at him. And what did I see in this moment? In the clip I saw, Zach Harrison, Ronnie Hickman, there were other leaders on the team that weren't going back, trying to push back and trying to fight and trying to go at Michigan for going at their guy. No, it was, hey, Cam, get on back, get on back. And I'm sitting here thinking, just like I did in that moment, I'm thinking it once again. There's absolutely no way that should happen tomorrow. Now, I'm not sitting here saying start a fight, but stand up for your brother. You stand up for the guy you've been fighting with. Stand up for the guy you've been working and grinding with, looking forward to this game. Stand up for him. And it kind of annoyed me. And I don't know if I tweeted that out or not that day in 2021, but it really kind of pissed me off how there weren't a lot of Ohio State players. They were pushing him back instead of standing up for him and saying, hey, man, no, we're not doing this today. We're not doing this today. And you know what? I do think tomorrow, this is going to be one of those times that where Ohio State is going to be so locked in and juiced up for this game, they're also not going to take no mess. And this is a game you got to get nasty. You got to get dirty. I know the Big Ten Championship next week, but you can't look ahead. You can't do any of that. You focus on the game and winning the intangibles. And the way the Will Howard's been playing, and the way Caleb Johnson's been playing, and with them being 2 of the leaders on the team and 2 guys that weren't here a year ago, I think they're going to. I think they also understand as just leaders and football players and men. I think they understand that the intangibles speak volumes in games like this. Even if we just focus on short yardage in the red zone, if we just focus on those 2 things, they understand from just playing ball, big games are won and lost in short yardage and in the red zone. You also add in penalties. You also add in losing composure. There are so many different areas, but it also goes into winning the battle in the trenches. The team that wins the rushing battle tomorrow is going to win the game. I'm not going to knock what Michigan has. They got good ball players, man. I've learned a lot from Urban Meyer, and he's said a lot of great things. And one of the wise things he said about this rivalry is Michigan has great players. Even in a down year, Michigan's players aren't atrocious. They're really, really good. And so tomorrow, when I say the team that wins the rushing battle, it wins the game, that's also showing – I also have a great respect for what Michigan does in the run game and what they can do. I also got a great respect and belief in Judkins and Henderson that they'll get the job done as well. Now, there are a few players, as well as Judkins and Henderson, that I believe Ohio State needs to focus on and needs to kind of watch tomorrow. You, fans, us, players to watch tomorrow in the game. On the Ohio State side, they got a few on offense, a few on defense, and a score prediction coming your way next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Simply visit FanDuel.com to join today. And maybe some of you are trying to be new customers at FanDuel and put your $5 in there to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Simply go to FanDuel. Ohio State is currently favored by 18.5 over the Michigan tomorrow, and the over-under is set at 42.5. What side of the fence are you on? Put your money on this game tomorrow and win some easy cash. All the action goes down at FanDuel in a couple places on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank y'all for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. We got a few players on offense, a few players on defense that I believe Ohio State needs to focus on. We must watch for tomorrow's game. The first was number 18. It's kind of goes self-explanatory without even saying, but Will Howard has to have a game tomorrow, man. The best game of his life. To many of us, when we think about Will Howard, we're watching him, and maybe the first full game we saw him play at Kansas State was in that Big 12 championship game against TCU. And I remember that game, remember watching Will Howard. I'm thinking, oh, okay, like at the time, who was the running back? Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn was the running back. I remember, wasn't married at the time. My wife and I watched, girlfriend. I don't know if we were engaged. We weren't engaged at that time. My wife and I were watching that game back then in 2022. And I remember this vividly, and she loved watching Deuce Vaughn run that ball and tote that thing. And I was like, oh, okay, like Deuce Vaughn's good. Then I'm thinking, Max Duggan's the quarterback that had a lot of the hype. I believe he was a Heisman finalist that year. And then there's this Will Howard kid that just kept doing some good stuff over and over and over and over and over. I'm thinking, okay, like, I know future Heisman winner. That was me at the time. He could win it this year. That was me at the time, though, back then. He ain't no future Heisman winner, but he can do a lot of good things. And I think this is a game that Will Howard needs to tap into some of that adrenaline, but even put it into overdrive tomorrow against Michigan. Because, man, if Will Howard just has one of them games, we're looking at one of those guys that will be remembered as the Buckeye quarterback that only played once in this rivalry, but left a major stamp on the game. Tomorrow, Will Howard, he's going to have a mistake or two. I probably just pencil him down to have 2 mistakes a week. I don't think that's it's a poor thing to say. I think it's an accurate thing to say that he's going to have a couple mistakes a game. Now, how does he respond? Because this game is going to be unlike the Penn State game. It's going to be unlike the Oregon game. It's going to be like Indiana a week ago. Those couple mistakes tomorrow could be touchdown for Michigan. You're looking at yourself like, oh, we're not looking too hot right now. Stay poised, young man. Keep your mind right. Another guy that I'm looking forward to tomorrow is a newcomer. He's a true freshman, a guy that should be a finalist for the Biletnikoff. I understand why you may say he's a true freshman. He should not be there. If you're an outsider, I can understand that. But as for me that understands a lot of what goes on with this young man, I think at any team in the country, he's wide receiver 1. He's the go-to option. Any team in the country, it's a shame. Smack in the face, really, of those voters that didn't make Jeremiah Smith a Biletnikoff finalist this year. A week ago, against Indiana, Jeremiah Smith wasn't really utilized like I thought, and maybe that was a way for Jeremiah Smith to play, but also be preserved for this game. And think about this. Him in his first game going off. I'm not saying he's going to go off, but let's just say he does go off. Talk about a big welcome to the rivalry moment. Your first time out there, Michigan can't do anything. But watch Jeremiah Smith. I think he's going to be utilized in various ways. Jet sweeps, jet pass, whatever you want to call it, the touch pass, bubble screens, various routes, whatever kind of route it is, he's going to be utilized there. Could we see him line up in the backfield? Maybe that's more of an Emeka Buka role or a Brandon Ennis role. I don't know how wise it will be to put him back there in the backfield unless it is to confuse Michigan. Put him back there, motion him out, figure out what the defense is, and then roll. I do think those are some of those things that Jeremiah Smith could do. Treveyon Henderson, and I've been hyping him up, but not really hyping him up, but giving him what he's deserved this year, which is a lot of praise for how well he's been playing. And Henderson tomorrow is going to be a guy that Ohio State can lean on. 100% they can lean on Treveyon Henderson. He won't be afraid of the front of Michigan's defense. He won't shy away from the physicality that they're going to bring to the table, because what's they going to do? Run hard game after game after game after game after play. Play after play after play. I think of game, like there are more games to play for Ohio State this year. But Treveyon Henderson. On the other side, Tyleik Williams. 91 is free, baby. And it's your time to just go out there and bust some heads, because you've heard, and I'm sure there's been some talk back and forth about what Michigan's run game plans on doing to Ohio State tomorrow. No, with 91 in there. 91 has a plan. And that plan is to bust heads all game long. You could put Hamilton in Ty Hamilton in that too. 91 and 58, go for it. Now, I do think, I didn't say this earlier, I think I said it a day ago. This is one of them games where Ohio State might want to pull out a 5-2. It's situational, but if you could roll out there, and it's weird because I don't want to take Jordan Hancock off the field. You don't. Put him out there at outside corner to take Igbenogson off. But I do think this one of them games, a 5-2 might be necessary. In come Caden McDonald, number 98. That big man in the middle, going to bust some heads too. Other guys to watch, Tua Malowau and Lathan Ransom. I do want to look at and see how I love JT on the field. Sometimes I'm still wanting more. He's probably going to be a second-round pick in the NFL draft. But I'm still like, JT, great run stopper. Show up tomorrow. I believe he will. Lathan Ransom, if Caleb Downs wasn't here, not really, because if Caleb Downs wasn't here either, Lathan Ransom didn't get the respect that he deserved, didn't play in the game a year ago. There was a touchdown pass that was right over the shoulder of Malik Harford's shoulder last year. If Lathan Ransom was on the field, one, I don't think the ball would have been thrown, but two, if it was thrown, it would either be a PBU or an interception, because that's Lathan Ransom. And Ransom remembers that. I know many of you remember that play as well. And he's going to do one thing. And his final game against Michigan, especially with it being senior day, he's going to show up and show out. Now, two more things quickly. I'm going to close up shop. I'm very curious to see how Ohio State manages Igbenogson tomorrow. Do they pull the cord quickly when he gets one pass interference call, leads the country in those calls? He had 3 a week ago. Do they pull the cord and say, no, we can't afford that in this game? That's what I'm curious about, because I do think that's a possibility that, oh, no, bro, you got to come. You got to come out. If it's an obvious passing situation, you're not on the field. Now, if he doesn't get them, how often does Jermaine Matthews Jr. play? Because I do think there could be a healthy rotation between those two guys moving forward throughout the rest of the year, because Igbenogson's penalties, those aren't just drive killers or drive killers for Ohio State's defense. Those are things that could cost you games, multiple games this year. Now, the score prediction, I told you all week I had one score on my notebook for Ohio State. That hasn't changed. I had 2 numbers on my notebook for Michigan. Those haven't changed either. I'm going Ohio State 34, Michigan 13. For the first time since 2019, the Buckeyes leave the shoe with a W over Michigan. I have firmly believed it all weekend long. The Buckeyes have answers, man. The Buckeyes have answers for anything Michigan throws their way. If it's Michigan run-heavy stuff, Ohio State has an answer. If they start to mix in the run and pass, Ohio State has an answer. If Michigan starts to stop the run, Ohio State has an answer. If Michigan puts more resources out there on the outside, Ohio State has an answer. If Michigan tries to say, okay, Caleb Downs, we're not going to punt to you, cool. We might send more pressure back there to get the punter. Ohio State has answers for anything Michigan throws at them, and that's why I believe that the Buckeyes are going to beat Michigan tomorrow. And by my standards, this is a blowout. I didn't really think this would be a blowout, but if 21 or more, you're getting blown out. And that's not to say Michigan's not a good football team. I just think Ohio State's that good this year. Thank y'all for tapping in to Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. For a second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because Craig Sheeman is the guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Feel Good Friday. I hope y'all ready for war because the Buckeyes and the Wolverines are going to battle tomorrow in the shoe. I can't wait.